I am going to present you with two LOMs, one weak LOM and one stronger LOM. I have designed these both for the Erasmus Mundus Master in Global Studies, EMGS. I did not apply to EMGS, but for the purpose of this content and as a learning resource, I have made two LOMs so you can understand the difference between a weak and a strong one. I know a lot of people are going to skip the weak LOM and just go right to the strong LOM. If you do that, in my opinion, you're missing out on a lot of the knowledge and necessities of writing a good LOM. Because if you don't know what a weak one looks like and sounds like and how that presents, I think it's going to be quite hard to write a good one, because then you don't know if what you're writing are actually mistakes or if they are points to have. The way I also think about it is good and bad pizza. I have eaten a lot of pizza in my life. I've eaten bad pizza and I've eaten good pizza. In order for me to know and appreciate what a good pizza tastes like and looks like, I had to go through bad pizzas. So that's my approach to LOMs. You need to understand why an LOM is weak, and then you can avoid making those mistakes. The choice is yours, but that's my approach, and that's what I did as I went through my own journey of Erasmus Mundus and also scholarships overall. Remember the 4 components. So those are clarity of motivation, relevant backgrounds, alignment with program goals, and international mindset and adaptability. Those 4 pieces are ones that you want to incorporate in your LOM. If you don't incorporate all of them to the maximum capacity, that's okay, because I understand that there is a word limit. But if you can try to touch on all of those, I believe that makes your LOM and your application stronger. So this is the prompt that I got from the EMGS website. It says, this letter should explain why you are interested in this particular master's program, 1 to 2 pages. In case you have a preference for your mobility track, please specify this in the motivation letter and why you would like to study at the respective universities. Already, you need to be picking out key components here. The first is 1 to 2 pages, meaning if you write 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, that's going to be an issue. They have said explicitly 1 to 2 pages. 1 to 2 pages is more than fair for an LOM. If you start writing 3, 4, 5, that's not really a letter. That becomes like a chapter of a book. So I would really encourage you to stick within those requirements. Let's start with the weak LOM. So you're going to get my analysis and how I would dissect this LOM, so you know what not to do. Already we have Dear Selection Committee. I've spoken on this before. We are not going to use that. You already know which selection committee is receiving this letter, so be specific. And even worse than Dear Selection Committee is Dear Sir, Madam, or Dear Professor, or just hello. I've seen that before, and that doesn't go well. From a young age, I have been fascinated by the world and the connections between different cultures. I remember watching the news with my family and wondering how events in one country could impact others. This sentence right here, it's not the best opening because, first of all, you're doing the cliche from a young age, ever since I was little. When I was a little girl, I've always dreamed of. And then the rest of the sentence, I have been fascinated by the world and the connections between different cultures. I would say that's a lot of people, especially people who are going for a master's degree, especially abroad. Most of them are fascinated by the world in some way and different cultures. That doesn't really distinguish you from the rest of the batch of applicants. I remember watching the news with my family and wondering how events in one country could impact others. That's not bad, but I'm not sure how relevant that is because nothing's really popping out at me. anyone could write this and feel this stuff. The next thing that I want to highlight is this is why I'm applying for the Erasmus Mundus Master in Global Studies. It's still not clear why you're applying to this master and this master in Global Studies. To remind you, there are thousands of master's programs in global studies, international relations. Why this one? Why Erasmus Mundus? If you want a master in global studies, there are some probably in your city or your country. There is no justification why you want this certain master's. So from the selection committee's perspective, I would be thinking, this is very weak. I have no evidence to back it up. It might come later, but up until now, all you have cited is being a kid and watching news with your family. So because of that, you want to apply for this master's. It's what I've talked about before in other videos and in previous content. You're making a very big jump. You almost have two different islands and no bridge between them. There's nothing connecting your childhood interest in news and this master's program. The next problem with this is this statement right here. My university provided some opportunities for discussions on globalization, but I did not have the chance to study these topics in an international setting. This, you are speaking from a place of lack. I'm lacking something, I don't have it, something's absent in my portfolio or in my CV. Don't speak from a place of hesitation. Even though it may be true that you didn't have the opportunity and you want the opportunity now, you don't want to show that and expose that to the selection committee. Also, they have your CV, so they can understand and know that you haven't studied abroad. You don't need to push that in their face. Next, we have, I'm particularly interested in the University of Vienna track because of its strong reputation and the wide range of courses it offers. This is an okay start, but wide range of courses it offers. What courses exactly? I feel like that could be more specific. And also this here, because of its strong reputation. One thing that you need to know with Erasmus Mundus, it is a reputable scheme, not just for the scholarship, but even just self-funded. So you're telling the selection committee things that they already know. They already know that their program has a strong reputation, that it is something that a lot of people want. Otherwise, why would hundreds or thousands of people be applying every year? Why would the acceptance rate be in the single digits? So you're not adding anything new. And furthermore, you're not, again, connecting yourself to the University of Vienna or to this program. Vienna is an exciting city with a rich history and a diverse international environment, which would provide me with valuable insights into global affairs. For a first draft, like a first attempt at an LOM, that makes sense. It's not bad. But from the selection committee's perspective, I might be wondering, you don't necessarily need this master's. Like, are you just interested more in Vienna as a city and you just want to live there? Or do you want this master's as well? I'm not quite sure. Right here, I believe this track would give me a solid foundation for understanding globalization from multiple perspectives. We want to avoid this stuff. I believe, I think, I feel, I hope. You can remove it. And if you remove it, this sentence is fine. It holds. You don't have to add I believe, I think to your LOM. That makes your LOM not as convincing. So I would say remove them because they don't add a lot of emphasis. Outside of academics, I have always been interested in different cultures and languages. That's basically every single Erasmus Mundus applicant. Otherwise, why would you apply? Why would you want to move abroad to different countries if you didn't care about different cultures and diversity? If you speak various languages, then you can include them. If not here, then in your CV. But this sentence is like, there are a bunch of words in this sentence, but they don't mean a lot. I have participated in cultural exchange programs at my university where I met students from around the world. So you are showing here that international mindset and adaptability, you're touching on it, and it's great, but was it like a social hour conversation place? Were you an orientation leader? Were you an advocate for international students? Did you sit on a committee? What exactly is this? Because cultural exchange programs could look like almost anything. So what are those programs, and can you give more information about that? These experiences were eye-opening and made me realize how much I enjoy learning from people with different perspectives. Yeah, that's fine. Nothing special about that. And it probably sounds harsh, but there's nothing really special from this sentence the way it is. You can improve it, and it could be stronger. However, I have never studied or lived abroad before, which is why I find the Erasmus Mundus program so appealing. We're speaking from a place of lack, of absence. I've never studied or lived abroad before. If you say that in your LOM, and I'm reading that and I'm on the selection committee, I'm going to wonder, is this person ready to study abroad and live in multiple countries and figure out banks and visas and different languages? I don't know. It would make me maybe hesitant. The next issue here that I have is I consider myself a dedicated and hardworking student who is eager to learn. Welcome to Erasmus Mundus and the Erasmus Mundus applicants. I would say almost all Erasmus Mundus applicants would consider themselves dedicated and hardworking and eager to learn. You don't add anything here, and you don't even include evidence when you write something like this. If you're going to say something like this, you really need to back it up and use your statistics and accomplishments to show that you are dedicated and eager to learn. You can't just say that and not provide any justification. Although I do not have extensive professional experience in global studies, I'm passionate about international issues and want to contribute to this field in the future. There are a lot of problems here. They can be fixed, but you need to know the problems and the red flags. Why say this? This is not going to help your application in any way. You might be thinking it's a way to convince them to give you the opportunity, because maybe you're thinking, other students have had their chance, I haven't had my chance, so this scholarship should go to me. What I think is that it does the opposite. You're saying that you don't have a lot of experience, and from the selection committee's mind, they might think, okay, well, if she doesn't have, or if he doesn't have any experience locally and during their undergraduate degree of 3 or 4 years, are they going to be okay doing more intensive study if they're telling me this type of statement? Another issue is I am passionate. No, don't put this in, please. And then about international issues. What international issues? There are so many ways you could go. There are so many directions. But if you just say international issues, that could be anything. If I ask you, oh, what do you like to eat? And you say food, I'd be thinking, okay, fine, that's fair, but What kind of food? Do you have a favorite food? Can you give me a bit more information than that? So that's how I would perceive this sentence. And then want to contribute to this field in the future. How exactly are you going to contribute to this field in the future? I don't really know up until this point. And then here, I hope to work in an international organization or an NGO that focuses on global development. Nothing here is specific, nothing is concrete and tangible. An international organization could be many different things, same with an NGO, and global development in what aspect. I have no way of knowing, and if you don't know and you can't write more than this in your LOM, the selection committee might think that you're not ready, or this candidate has potential, but they need another year or two to figure out what is going on in this subject area. This program will provide me with the knowledge and skills I need to achieve my career goals, but we don't exactly know what the career goals are. If you don't even know what your career goals are, how do you know this program will help you with that? Overall, I'm excited about the opportunity to be part of the Erasmus Mundus Master in Global Studies. I believe, nope. My passion for international affairs and my eagerness to learn make me a strong candidate. I look forward to the possibility of joining this program and contributing to the discussions on globalization. Fine. And then that's it. So it's essentially one page. The instructions allowed for 2 pages. If this is your first draft and your first attempt, especially if you are a new applicant, it's not bad. I would applaud you for starting and getting this far, for putting your thoughts on paper, but do not submit this. This is not ready to be submitted at all. There are a lot of improvements you need to make. There are no numbers in here, no evidence, no accomplishments really, and it feels very plain and very neutral, very boring. It's not that it is unprofessional. You just need to bring it from like a 50% to 100%. It's okay to start here and do multiple versions, get feedback, change some things, get more feedback, then change it. That's fine. It's a good start. But if you were to submit this, I would consider this a fairly weak LOM, and you probably will not be very successful with this. To ensure everyone is on the same page, there are a couple points I need to make. This document that I'm going to show, the Stronger LOM, is a mock draft. It's not a final version, and it's also something that I have made for the purpose of learning and to aid applicants. I've made a stronger LOM so you can contrast it with a weak one. As it is a mock draft, it also means that the names of organizations or certain experiences that I talk about are fictitious. I have pulled them and created them for the purpose of storytelling and to make this LOM. The organizations, institutions, none of them are involved with this LOM or affiliated in any way. These last 2 points here, I wish I did not have to make, and I wish I did not have to talk about this, but I do, given pieces of integrity and respect. What I am providing is a tool, it's an aid, it's a resource. It's not a guarantee. It's something that I have created to help people. This means you should not be copying the content verbatim or using the content and changing a few things and submitting that as your application. This is particularly important if you are going to apply to this program, EMJM, but valid for any other program. All I can hope is that people respect that this is just a tool. Building on that, this LOM that I'm going to share does not guarantee a scholarship or acceptance to the program. It is just an example for you to understand why one is stronger than the other. So if you decide for whatever reason to use this LOM and copy it and send it, and you think this is 100% going to get me accepted, you're going to be very disappointed. My goal in making content and sharing tips and advice is that tips and advice so you can make a strong application. I'm not a ghostwriter. I'm just sharing my experience. I request that none of this is plagiarized. That would be appreciated. This is not the final version. There are edits to make, spelling, grammar checks, but it's just for you to visualize. And I'm going to keep saying that. Dear EMGS Selection Committee, that is a lot better than Dear Selection Committee, Dear Sir, Dear Professor, Dear Reader, and my least favorite, To Whom It May Concern. You know who is going to read this, so put that in the greeting. If you want to write this in full, you can do that too. What I've done with this sentence, I confronted this reality when I arrived at London Heathrow Airport to begin my 2024 summer internship at the University of Sussex. So almost right there in the second sentence, I'm dropping like an accomplishment, or I'm dropping something from my background, my portfolio, like right in the second sentence, but not in a dry way. Like, I did a summer internship. It's more integrated into the intro. And then I write, as a Canadian citizen, I moved effortlessly through immigration, answering some routine questions before receiving my stamp. So I'm giving some background information. And then I'm talking about, I watched others in a different line. They had to present piles of documents while undergoing intense scrutiny about their purpose of stay and when they will leave the UK. Some were pulled in separate rooms, their travel paused, and then I conclude this by saying, I was immediately reminded of my privilege and that mobility, access, and opportunities are shaped by power and colonial structures. So this sentence right here, overall, as you'll see, this paragraph, I do give some background info, but it is not the childhood story. It's not like the one we saw before. I use an example from 2024 when I was an adult, not a child. I just feel like it would be stronger because it's more relevant and recent. But that's just me and how I approach my LOMs and application. And then, so there's like the background, the story, the personal touch. Then I close. We're done with that. We're not going on and on about the story, about childhood, about broken feet, broken whatever. No, it's like one paragraph, tight, done. If I wanted to be even tighter, I could remove a few sentences as well. This is not a final draft, so I still have time to figure that out. Then I transition very quickly. This awareness, so this awareness that I got in that situation, this awareness led to the development of my undergraduate dissertation at the University of Ottawa on Canada's asylum policies and the experiences of LGBTQIA claimants. So you can see that connection there, right? Something that I witnessed or went through in 2024 changed my lens or opened my eyes to different realities that I have not experienced. And then I also include the University of Ottawa. This is better than just saying, I studied at the University of Ottawa. I did a dissertation on this topic. It's not as robotic. I combined this fieldwork with a 6-month fellowship at the Migrant Workers Alliance for Change. Already here, you can see 6-month fellowship. I didn't just say a fellowship, I said 6 months. Wherever you can, put those numbers or figures in, do that. I've talked about it so much before in the CV video, in this video, and basically all of my videos. You need to be specific, and it just takes 2 words to be more specific. Otherwise, the selection committee could think, was this fellowship like a week? They have no idea. If you put 6 months, at least it's there, and that's on your CV too. I received a $5,000 grant to conduct 20 in-depth interviews. More figures, more evidence. Not, I received a grant, or I received a grant and did interviews, or I did interviews. I'm saying and putting it very strongly, $5,000 grant, 20 in-depth interviews. For the final version, I likely would add $5,000 grant from who? From my university, from the government, from a nonprofit. I would say who for my final version. Then what I learned, these interviews provided valuable insights into the intersection of sexual orientation and immigration policy, shedding light on the unique challenges faced by LGBTQI individuals within Canada's asylum process. Remember, the weak LOM didn't have these specifics. I just talked about globalization and people from other cultures, which is a lot. Like, that's such a big field. This, we're starting to tighten and be more direct and funnel things. Conducting primary research for 6 months deepened my understanding of migration systems. It also reinforced my commitment to advocating for marginalized communities while deconstructing my own privilege. This is a better sentence, conducting primary research, because you're saying conducted primary research, not just I researched, I did research, I like research. I'm, again, adding the emphasis, conducting primary research, because there's primary and secondary. And I wanted to let them know it's primary that I'm conducting. And see this word here, privilege, it's something that I'm connecting back to that intro here. So I'm trying to keep the theme flowing. Otherwise, something very common with LOMs that I see, people will start on point A and then they shift suddenly to point G and they jumped really fast. I would say it's important to maintain some continuity with the themes and the messaging. You don't have to repeat, of course, the same vocabulary and phrases throughout your LOM, but imagine it's like a waterfall. It's still going and it's not jumping around, being choppy. I had my moment or my inspiration or personal piece. I explained what I did with it. I used it in my undergraduate dissertation. Then I explain, so what? What was the outcome or impact? And I tell the selection committee that my research, so what I did, contributed to the organizations or to the partners' provincial advocacy efforts. And those advocacy efforts are aimed at improving psychosocial support for LGBTQIA claimants. So now you can see like where the dots are starting to connect, where the links are. I went from my personal moment, then using that personal moment in my dissertation and research, and then using that research to help another nonprofit or partner or community. And then I later say these findings were shared within the organization and helped shape their 2026 advocacy objectives. These interviews provided empirical data that strengthened their push for more equity in adjudicating. So I'm essentially trying to say that I helped them to help other people. So there's a domino effect there. With over 4 years of work and leadership experience in social justice and community development in Canada, I'm eager to transition to the macro level, recognizing the power dynamics between the global north and south. By now, when the reader reads this sentence, they feel like, oh, okay, there's some change coming. It makes sense. So she's done work in her community. She's done research. Now she's looking to transition or grow to a broader perspective. That's like enough about me and what I've done and my projects. I transition and I pivot to talking about the program. Then I mention which parallels the realities of studying in 2 countries over 2 years, which makes them understand that I understand Erasmus Mundus and this program. By experiencing an international master's, I will gain a more comprehensive understanding of how global governance functions within the EU and the EU's relations with other regions. I'm trying to make the case of why I want to join this program, and it's because a master's in this field in Canada would not really give me that depth. Of course, I would still learn things, but if I want to explore the EU's relations with other regions, then it makes sense to be in the EU. Also, because above I mentioned about power, privilege, colonialism, so you can see everything is starting to connect and it makes sense. The prompt, if you remember, also asked applicants to identify their mobility track or their choice of mobility. And this is when I start to talk about the University of Vienna. I say it's my top choice because of its strong focus on migration networks. This sentence here, I'm trying to emphasize how much of an asset I can be. I'm saying I want to join, or I plan to join the Students' Union leadership team and create a well-being strategy for students of migrant backgrounds, which makes sense given what I have discussed on page 1. I talked about my previous work, my research, my internship. So I'm trying to build on that, but also do it in a different way and in a different context. This sounds better than the previous week LOM, which had vague things. I will contribute, get involved, participate, but how? Why? What exactly are you going to do? What outcome are you going to make, or what outcome is going to happen? I'm trying to be concrete and give them an actual product or something tangible. I also write here, Vienna being the headquarters of the International Center for Migration Policy Development will strategically put me in spaces to network for my master's thesis and enhance my career prospects at the international level. This is better than page 1 when we talked about Vienna. Reputation, exciting city, which would provide me with valuable insights into global affairs. It's okay, but I would say this one is better because I'm showing to the selection committee that I know what's going on in Vienna. So I've looked at the different partners. I've looked at the different study tracks and the cities where I could live and study. And Vienna is going to be the best spot for me because this is based there. So it's easier for me to have access to those networks and those areas than another city that is involved with this program. I want that the selection committee knows that I've done my homework, that I've done my research, that I have assessed the options, not just I like Vienna or I want to live in Vienna, but that it actually makes sense for me to participate in this track. Then I also list these align with my aspirations to work with international organizations such as the International Organization for Migration. Here I actually dropped the name, whereas I hope to work in an international organization. Which one? There are tons. This is better. Then I also write, I intend to spend my 3rd term, so that would be your 1st semester of your 2nd year, studying in New Zealand. And why? Because of the conversations around decolonization, Indigenous sovereignty. So I'm giving, again, more concrete ideas. My why. Why do I want to go to New Zealand? I'm also explaining that there are some parallels between the New Zealand context and the Canadian context. So that's what I include here, comparing Indigenous rights, particularly in relation to migration and state power, looking at New Zealand, Canada. So I'm trying to really embrace all of the elements and the opportunities that this program can give. Because I'm from Canada, I want to get that experience in Vienna, network there, and also do a semester in New Zealand through this program because it makes the most sense for my values, for my area of expertise, for my interests, and for my thesis. So that makes sense. Then I also include with my Canadian first year EMJM education, I will learn Indigenous perspectives that reimagine sovereignty and transnational solidarity. So I want to, again, show the selection committee that like I'm combining different frameworks. It's not just one framework or one way being the correct way. There are different aspects and elements in this field that we need to consider. And then following graduation, I intend to maximize the professional network, institutional partnerships, and alumni connections established through EMJS to strategically position myself in a career with the IOM. And then I'm being more specific, working as a migration policy officer, and even more specific, specializing in equitable asylum and refugee protection policies. This is all much better than this. Achieve my career goals. You don't even know what your career goals are on page 1 of the week LOM. And then I wrap up to conclude joining the 2026-2028 EMJS cohort. It's more than just an academic pursuit. And what my goal through this conclusion is to summarize and wrap everything up. I'm wrapping up the decolonial lens, migration, justice, but also elements of the program, like the interdisciplinary approach and the international network that I would get. Of course, if you saw my video on 10 ways to improve your profile and application, you know that I talk about this. I mentioned this, the SDGs. I will link the video so you can watch that and understand why it's important to mention the SDGs. Given that this master's focuses on global studies and what I know about the curriculum, the coursework, the research, and the partners, it makes a lot of sense to mention the SDGs. I'm not just dropping SDGs all over the place, like 1, 3, 5, and going into long explanations about the SDGs. They know that I know about the SDGs, and then I close. That's it. So it's 2 pages because I have made a lot of things in bold. It went a bit over. If I change the bold text, then it will be within 2 pages. But yeah, this right is so much better than this week one. This week one doesn't really compare. And this is not even the final draft. There are still some changes, but it's still so much better and it has improved a lot. That's what I want you to know, that you can start from something like this and change it to this. You're giving the same points. You are the same person, the same profile and portfolio, but the way this is written is a lot stronger. I sincerely hope this breakdown was helpful. There are a lot of good guides and resources online related to the LOM. I felt that one thing that was lacking was the comparison of a weak versus strong LOM. There are tons of videos and blogs that talk about tips, what you need to do, but my approach, because I'm a visual learner, I like to see, okay, this is not good, this is weak, this is what I should not do and why I should not do it. And then this is stronger, why it's stronger, and this is what I should be striving for. If this video was helpful, please give a like and subscribe to help me continue supporting more ambitious applicants.